This road here, look, this is all very nice.
I'm in one of London's most exclusive neighbourhoods, Kensington, staring up at a penthouse apartment.
So it's absolutely massive.
I've seen pictures inside this penthouse. It's decorated with Andy Warhol prints, expensive looking furniture. At the very top, there's an indoor swimming pool with a retractable roof.
It's literally like half a football pitch.
Back in 2016, this penthouse was bought for £13.5 million by a mysterious shell company on the island of Guernsey.
I went to see it when I was down in London.
Despite the secrecy around the purchase, OneCoin investor Jen McAdam is pretty sure she knows who the buyer is.
When I was looking at it when I was at London, I was saying, oh my God, she bought that with victims' money. That's victims' money that was bought with.
Now, if you own a house, chances are your name will appear in public records. But people like Dr Ruja Ignatova do things differently. They use shell companies and mysterious frontmen to keep their names off paperwork. With giant scams like OneCoin, money is stolen from people like Jen and then is very quickly moved around the world, turned into assets, often owned on paper by secretive offshore firms. It's one of the reasons victims find it so hard to get their money back. According to the Land Registry, the official owner of the Kensington penthouse was just that Guernsey shell company called Abbott's House Penthouse Limited. There was no mention of Ruja's name anywhere. And in 2019, when the City of London police closed their investigation into OneCoin, they even said they'd not been able to identify any assets in the UK.
What we know, she might still own this place.
But we'd heard rumours from some of Ruja's former colleagues that not only did she buy this penthouse, despite being on the run for years, she'd somehow managed to keep hold of it too.
So should go in there and see whether the portal will tell us anything about the current ownership. We'll probably turn this off though, otherwise they'll never speak to us.
Yeah.
So I'll hit stop.
So, right,
Talk to us, but couldn't tell us anything. Couldn't tell us about the current tenants. But interestingly, said that the police had been round fairly recently, from the sounds of it, and said the woman who owns this has run off. It's a bit late, but they were there.
Ruja might be gone, but some of the things she bought with investors' cash are still here, including right in the middle of London, under our noses, but somehow still out of reach.
that's our money.
At least for now.
Oh, what? Wow. Oh my God.
This is the Missing Cryptoqueen.
Did it. We did it.
Episode 15. Pac-Man. Not long after we visited that penthouse, Jen McAdam is told of a law firm that has an idea. They might be able to help OneCoin victims get some of their money back.
Incredible lawyers, vast experience. They were Princess Diana's lawyers. They represented Princess Diana in her divorce from Charles.
The company is called Mishcon de Reya, one of London's most famous and well-respected law firms.
It was exciting to hear the words that we can help you recover your money.
Lawyers from Mishcons tell Jen they want to create something called a group claim, which is a bit like a US class action lawsuit.
That means gathering together loads of OneCoin investors and asking London's High Court to approve freezing the assets of Ruja and anyone else targeted. Then they'll try to confiscate those assets and hand the proceeds back to OneCoin investors.
They seemed so keen and confident. We can do this, and we will do this. So we were ready to go.
For years, Jen McAdam and other OneCoin investors have had two goals: to find Ruja and to get some of their stolen money back. Jen decides that if Ruja can't be found, the next best thing is to lead a group claim against OneCoin and get back some of what they lost. So in late 2022, Jen decides to take up Mishkon's offer.
We'd waited years for this. We're finally on the journey to recover our money.
Jen's lawsuit is not funded by the law firm Mishkon Dereya, but by a litigation funder, a company that sees this lawsuit as an investment opportunity. The litigation funder pays for all the legal work to identify the assets and make a claim, and if the lawsuit's successful, they take a hefty cut out of any eventual payout. There are companies who only invest in this kind of lawsuit, and that might sound a bit weird to you. It did to me, and to Jen.
So there was a lot of questions. What does this mean? What does that mean?
But it's quite normal for lawsuits like this to be funded by a third party. In fact, the industry is valued at about £2 billion a year in the UK alone. Mishkon Dereya find a litigation funder in the US called Galactic, run by someone called Alan Silber.
They had feedback through colleagues and lawyers with Mishkon Dereya, and he was reputable, and he was a great funder, as I was told.
The terms of the funding agreement are confidential, but in a case like this, you'd expect a company like Galactic to take something between a third and a half of whatever Jen and Mishkon's can recover. Now that might seem like a lot, but Jen says there weren't any other offers on the table.
We've been working with the funder and his lawyer for over a year, and this is the best that we're going to get.
With the funding secure, Jen tells OneCoin investors the exciting news.
She reached out to me.
One of the first people she tells is Daniel from Uganda.
She told me we've got a law firm and I'm going to introduce them to you.
Who I'd met there 6 years ago.
What's the sort of typical day here for the people that live in this village?
They wake up, then go to the gardens, especially the banana plantations.
Along with his mum.
She says that she's very, very proud of me and she loves me so much.
We're going to get somebody else to check these translations.
It feels like yesterday.
Tell me about it, I know.
Around that time, we wanted to open up a maize store where we could distribute it to schools, to prisons, to small retail shops.
But Daniel's mum Lois never got to open that maize store she dreamed about, because Daniel convinced his family to put their entire life savings, around $2,500, into OneCoin instead.
It was my everything. It was huge.
Today, Daniel says his family is still struggling with the loss of their entire life savings. Lois is still working on her farm, growing bananas. But the new lawsuit is offering Daniel and his family a glimmer of hope.
Jen McAdam told me that there is an opportunity.
Despite being 6,000 miles apart, Daniel and Jen start to discuss the offer.
That Mishkon Dereya could help. It could be amazing for us. In most cases, we talk every day. And she's very emotional, but also strong at the same time. I call her my Scottish mother. I call her mom.
Jen is swamped with inquiries from excited investors, but they're nervous too.
Victims were messaging, wanting questions answered.
These investors have been burnt before by promises of a quick way to improve their lives. So when they log on to a new website for the lawsuit, they're reassured by one thing above all.
No win, no fee. Whether we win, whether we lose, we are not supposed to pay anything, like anything at any given time.
There was a FAQ section, and that was one of the questions. Is this a no win, no fee? Yes.
A steering committee is formed to represent investors. Daniel joins. He sees it as a chance to make it up to his family.
It is the right time for us to recover what we lost, and guess what? I have an opportunity to be at the core front of everything.
And Jen, of course, is nominated to chair the committee.
They voted. They did it in front of lawyers in a Zoom meeting. Who do you choose? And Jen. So.
And then you thought, well, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
With that no win, no fee assurance and Jen chairing the steering committee, within a few months more than 400 OneCoin investors from all over the world sign up to the group claim. 400 people who, for the first time, start to think that maybe they'll get something back of what they lost. One of the first people to join was Eileen, Jen's best friend from school. At the mention of her name, Jen gets up to find a photo of the two of them.
That's a great memory. That was only taken a few years ago.
A very nice smile.
Gosh, beautiful.
Jen and Eileen had invested in OneCoin together. Eileen had even borrowed money to do it. They would talk about their dream to buy a holiday home in the sun.
I remember the conversations we used to have, and she would say, fancy Spain, Jen, for a wee condo or something. So we dream, this was our dream, we were going to do.
As I sit and talk to Jen, I wonder if this is a chance to exercise some of the guilt she's been carrying around all these years. It's bad enough losing your own money, but Jen convinced her family and friends to invest as well.
I always carrying them with me, I still do to this day. Because, see, to be honest, Jamie, if it was just for myself, I would have walked away a long time ago. It was always for other victims.
No one knows exactly how much money is lost to crypto scams. Here in the UK, authorities think more than £1.5 billion could have been lost over the past decade. OneCoin is just one of hundreds of similar scams that have fooled tens of thousands of British investors. And as far as we know, none of them have ever got their money back through a group claim like Jen's. That's the scale of the challenge she and Daniel face. For any of this to work, their lawyers have to find the people they can prove profited from the OneCoin scam. And they've got to identify assets that belong to those people and then convince a judge to freeze those assets. It requires a huge amount of work, partly because lots of assets, like that London penthouse, are owned on paper by secretive shell companies. But with enough perseverance, you can find out the ultimate owner.
Sitting on the bench listening to opera.
Nice to meet you.
Jamie.
Yeah, thanks so much.
This is the former porter at the London building where we suspected Ruja bought her penthouse.
Really nice round here, isn't it?
It's lovely. I used to
Never
come here
been.
daily when I worked
Yeah.
there.
We're meeting at a park in West London, just down the road from the penthouse. It's a lovely summer's day. This is probably the fanciest park I've ever been to. Perfectly trimmed hedges, peacocks.
I just heard one.
I did,
It's
I
a
wondered
family
what
of
that
about,
was.
well, they in couples. There's 6.
There's even an opera rehearsal going on. The porter doesn't want us to use his real name, so we're calling him James.
The penthouse itself, what's it like? How do you describe it?
Huge, beautiful place, really well done. The whole length of the building, which is, I don't know, let's say 150 foot long, and 2 floors, swimming pool in there, 4 bedrooms, and a massive living room, and 2 balconies on either end that overlook the high street and the back of the building. So very plush, very nice finish.
A plush finish for a new owner, who James says put their stamp on the property straight away.
Ruja came and filled it up with paintings and clothes and jewellery.
Ruja, the mysterious new owner, was impossible to miss.
Over the Christmas period she was there, and she had these 2 big meathead bodyguards next to her. She was going shopping every day down Sloane Square, etc., and coming back with the poor 2 bodyguards had about 20 bags that they were struggling with, shoes, clothes, dresses, that she filled the penthouse up with. Jewellery all over the place, shoes, Jimmy Choo, Louboutin, designer shoes.
Ruja's bodyguards were always ready at any moment to escort her on her shopping trips. James says sometimes they'd stay in another flat in the building.
Flat 11, which she owned downstairs.
So she owned Flat 11 as well, and that was for what reason?
Flat 11 was all artworks, £1 million worth of artwork. She had an Andy Warhol painting stuffed in the cupboard. One of them was huge, and it was like a Bangkok temple. And it was a picture, but it was made out of folded up banknotes.
She had
it
a
was
painting
different.
Literally made of money.
She did, yeah. Yeah, she was made of money.
So not just one exclusive penthouse, but a second apartment too for her bodyguards, also stuffed with expensive artwork and designer goods. Not only does James remember all this, he also has emails about the penthouse from his time working there.
So what we got, Rob?
Which he shares with us.
Okay, so the email that I'm looking at here is actually chasing payment, and there's a reply, and it comes from someone at Ravenhour Capital.
That's Ruja's London family office.
Correct.
So that was managing her personal wealth.
Yeah, but probably the most important email comes from a property management company, and it says, quote, "Can you change the lessee's details to Dr. Ruja Ignatova?"
Oh, right, yeah, that's...
It's kind of a slam dunk.
Armed with James's testimony and emails, we feel confident enough to publish a story.
A multi-million-pound London property bought by a notorious cryptocurrency scammer. Jamie Bartlett is with us now.
And for many people, it will be a surprise to know that this woman had this very, very impressive piece of property right in the heart of London. We'd managed to prove that Ruja bought the London penthouse. But that was just one asset of many, and it took us a lot of time and work. And it was only possible because it was based in the UK, right under our noses. Faced with the difficult task of finding assets they can prove belong to Ruja, Jen's lawyers expand the list of possible targets. OneCoin was a giant organism. Ruja was at the top. Below her were hundreds of others who'd made money through the scam. Senior promoters who'd sold the coin to investors and taken a cut. Bankers and financiers who'd invested her money. But hardly any of these people have ever been convicted for their alleged roles in OneCoin. They've always claimed they were ignorant about what was really going on. Because of that, it feels riskier for Jen's lawyers to target people like this.
The first thing they do is Google you, and you're guilty before you've been even tried.
People like the British businessman, Christopher Hamilton.
I've become persona non grata in many circles. People run for the hills.
Back in 2016, Christopher was running a payments company when he received tens of millions of dollars from Ruja's boyfriend, a man called Gilbert Armenta. Money that Gilbert supposedly wanted to invest with him. Police are suspicious. They arrest Christopher and seize the money.
Holy shit, I must be in trouble. The City of London Police. The first thing out of their mouths was, what do I know about this Dr. Ruja? I said, I don't know, I never heard of him. And they said, well, it's not him, it's her. Well, I said, I haven't heard of her either.
The police suspect they've caught one of the top OneCoin money movers.
And they were asking me about OneCoin, and of course I don't know anything about this.
They even publish a press release about Christopher's arrest.
A South Wales man has been arrested by the City of London police in possession of bankers' drafts worth £30 million in what is believed to be the biggest ever money seizure made by UK law enforcement.
It goes out, the news, at lunchtime news, that they've arrested the number one money laundering kingpin, that they've got the numero uno.
But the police's evidence isn't strong enough to convince a judge who orders the money be returned to Christopher. The press release is removed from the police's website and the case is closed. But that's not the end of it. US authorities are also after Christopher. US prosecutors accuse him of moving money he either knew or suspected was of criminal origin, and that he siphoned off some of it for himself. And the Americans are particularly interested in one email that Christopher received from his business partner.
Anybody knows me knows that I don't read long emails.
Sorry, so are you saying you didn't really see what he'd been
No,
saying?
I'm not saying to you that I did or I didn't see it. I was saying to you, I don't recall that being the case. And in any event, that time, it wouldn't have occurred to me because there was no certain evidence that this was a proceeds of crime. We can't lay that at my door. You've got to look back at the time and say, what could we have reasonably guessed?
Well, what your colleague reasonably guessed was that it looked like they were running a giant Ponzi scheme. And I can read the section that's relevant. He says to you in an email, OneCoin is selling, it appears, cryptocurrency as part of a multi-level marketing network, but it's clearly a Ponzi scheme. Okay, I've been doing this for the best part of an hour. From everything I've seen and read, dozens and dozens of pages, I can't categorically prove anything, but I think they're running a giant Ponzi based in Bulgaria and covering Eastern Europe and the Far East. My question is, are we banking or being asked to assist in the banking of a large Ponzi? And he seems to have summarised it pretty well, actually.
But that's still his question. Yeah, look, I'm not the author of that either.
You're the recipient.
I'm the recipient of the email, but again, I'm not saying I did or I didn't receive it. What I'm saying to you is that it doesn't conclusively say that that's what's happened.
The US wanted to extradite Christopher, but a UK judge ruled that if he should face justice, it should be here in the UK. Christopher has always denied wrongdoing, and to this day, no charges have been brought against him in the UK. It feels like Jen, Daniel and the hundreds of other OneCoin investors face a huge task when it comes to getting any of their money back. Inevitably, they have to lean on their lawyers to guide them through the process.
Victims were messaging, wanting questions answered. I'd go back to Mishko and, what can I say to this? What's the situation? I'm learning as well at the same time.
There's the litigation funding agreement.
Endless legal documents.
Reports back to the funder, Galactic.
Possible defendants. Your witness statement. Organising the steering committee members.
Emails almost every day.
So that was life, Jamie.
It's hard enough for Jen. For Daniel and some of the other victims, this isn't even their first language.
I didn't understand everything, but I would ask where I feel I've not understood.
And then there's time zones.
Most of the meetings we would do them at around 7 p.m. Ugandan time.
And internet access.
And I would be up in the hill looking for my mobile connection in the dark, in the wild, in the mosquitoes.
It goes on like this for months, then a year. I can't help thinking how it took Jen just a few minutes to transfer her thousands to OneCoin and Ruja, but how long it's taking to try and get some of it back. For some people, too long. As Jen spent her days on paperwork, Eileen, Jen's friend who was one of the first to join the claim, had to go into hospital. She'd had a kidney transplant a few years earlier. Now there were complications following a biopsy.
When they got her to Glasgow, they managed to stop the bleed. But within a few days, she started coming back to herself, and she went, I want home. She wanted home. So she came home.
Eileen told Jen she felt fine, but when Jen visited her, she wasn't so sure.
And I asked her if I could phone the doctor, and she wouldn't allow me. And she said, you're not phoning the doctor. This is just going to take me a long time to recover. But I'll recover. And I gave her a cuddle when I left, and I said, Eileen, please don't leave it till it's too late. She went, oh no, don't be silly. Oh no, I'm fine. And I get a phone call in the morning saying she's gone. So and I'll never go over that. And now she's gone. She'll never get her money back.
This is the thing about big scams like OneCoin. It's not just the money you lose, it's the time too. 10 years on, Jen's even lost her best friend. And there must be so many people like Eileen who'll never get back what was stolen from them. It's the 25th of July, 2024. Nearly 10 years after investing her money and after 20 months of work with Mishcons, Jen's lawyers are ready to go in front of a High Court judge with their case. It all happens in private. No media are allowed. The lawyers are applying for something called worldwide freezing orders. Mishcon's crack legal team lay out their case. Jen, meanwhile, is pacing up and down in her Glasgow home, waiting for news.
Cleaning, tidying, checking, speaking to Daniel.
I was feeling anxious if they allow the freezing order or not.
If the freezing orders are granted, it would be the first crucial step towards getting back that lost money for hundreds of people.
It was a phone call.
Jen's lawyers have news.
Oh, what? Wow. They've been granted. Worldwide freezing orders have been granted. Oh my God, we did it. We did it.
In total, the freezing order covers 8 people, including Dr Ruja Ignatova, Sebastian Greenwood, who co-founded OneCoin with Ruja, Christopher Hamilton, who I'd interviewed, and there's also big-time promoters of OneCoin called the Islam Brothers. I'll tell you about them in the next episode. The idea behind the freezing order is to stop these people from hiding any money or assets should Jen's lawsuit be successful. With those assets frozen, they could eventually be seized, sold, and the proceeds used to compensate OneCoin investors.
I was so ecstatic. So ecstatic. I couldn't wait to share it with the victims.
It was the first milestone that we hit, and we are now getting closer.
We had been chased for such a long time, gobbled up, everything, our money, our lives, and all of a sudden it was, I'm not running anymore.
I tell Jen that this moment reminds me of that old computer game, Pac-Man. You know, like Pac-Man, when and the baddies are chasing you, and then you eat one of those big ones, and then you get to chase them. For the first time, it feels like Jen and the investors are the ones doing the chasing.
I used to love turning back, and you could get excited.
If only things were that simple. Because for Jen, what starts off as a chance for redemption quickly turns into something very different.
could you do this to us?
This feels like even a bigger injustice than OneCoin.
How could you put us in this position?
The Missing Cryptoqueen is presented by me, Jamie Bartlett. It was written by me and Rob Byrne. Rob Byrne was the producer, and Georgia Catt was the executive producer. The music is by Phil Channel and Desislava Stefanova and the London Bulgarian Choir. The commissioner was Dylan Haskins. It's a BBC Studios production for BBC Sounds and BBC Radio 5 Live.